All right, welcome to another deep dive. We've got a pretty fascinating one today.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting.
As always, you know the drill by now. You send us the sources, and we do the heavy lifting, extract the key insights. And for you, the learner, someone who's curious and wants to really grasp these sometimes complicated topics without drowning in information overload.
Right.
We're going to dive into something pretty cutting edge today. This one is Gemini Robotics from Google DeepMind. And we're basing this deep dive off the report that you sent us.
Exactly. And that report goes into detail about their work on bringing those super advanced AI models, the Gemini series, right?
Right.
Bringing that into the physical world, actually having robots use them.
The real deal, not just, theoretical digital space.
Right.
Actual, metal and circuits and moving in the world.
So our mission today is to really understand how Gemini Robotics is trying to take all of that amazing digital AI progress and bridge the gap to physical robots,
Yeah.
Robots that can actually do things in the world and not just one specific task.
Right.
But much broader, more general tasks.
Right. The way, we kind of imagine robots will be someday.
Exactly.
Really capable.
Like the Jetsons?
Yeah, exactly, like the Jetsons. So to achieve that, there are actually two main models that this report kind of introduces, right?
That's right. There's Gemini Robotics ER, which is
Right.
the embodied reasoning focus.
Yep.
And then there's just Gemini Robotics,
Okay.
which is their vision language action model, which is kind of the more advanced one.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
So this idea of embodied reasoning, right?
Yeah.
That sounds very academic,
Right, it does. But what's really interesting is that they're not starting from scratch,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Gemini Robotics builds on what Gemini 2.0 could already do,
Okay.
specifically this embodied reasoning, or what they call ER,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so that's already in there.
Yeah, and in the world of robotics, what ER means is the AI has to understand physical space,
Okay.
where things are, how they relate to each other.
That makes sense.
It can't just deal with words and pictures.
Right.
It's got to know how objects exist in the real world.
Okay, yeah, like how the world actually works.
Right.
If you bump into something, it moves, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And to see if their AI actually gets this, DeepMind created a test.
Okay.
They call it ERQA, Embodied Reasoning Question Answering Catchy, right?
Right.
It's a benchmark, but it's designed to test models that can handle lots of input types.
Images, text, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Images, text, because robots need to work with all of that.
Right. Makes sense.
And the ERQA, it's smart how it's made. It tests the exact kind of understanding a robot would need.
Like what? Give me an example.
So spatial reasoning, for example.
Okay.
Knowing where stuff is relative to each other.
Okay.
But also trajectory reasoning, so how things move.
Right. Okay, so it's not just static pictures. It's like predicting.
Exactly. And then action reasoning.
What's that?
Figuring out what actions are even possible.
Okay.
You can't walk through a wall.
Right.
Then you have state estimation.
All right.
Knowing. Is the cup empty or full?
Okay.
Then there's pointing.
Pointing, like literally.
Yeah, identify this object or this location.
Interesting.
And this is key, multi-view reasoning.
Multi-view, so like different angles.
Exactly, because robots will have multiple cameras often.
Right, to see all around.
Right. And lastly, there's task reasoning,
Okay.
which is putting all of that together to achieve some goal.
All right, so it's like a comprehensive test.
It is. It's 400 multiple choice questions, so pretty rigorous.
Wow, that's a lot.
But here's the kicker. Over a quarter of the questions use multiple images.
Oh, so it's not just looking at one snapshot.
Nope. It's got to make sense of things from different views.
That's way harder.
It is. But Gemini 2.0, it did amazing on this ERQA benchmark.
Oh.
State-of-the-art results.
Really?
Yeah. And this changes how we think about these big language models.
In what way?
They're not just good with text anymore. They're getting the physical world, too.
That's a big deal, I guess.
It is. It beat out other models like GPT, Claude, even older Geminis.
Okay.
And here's a cool trick. When they used what's called chain of thought prompting,
Okay.
so they make the AI explain its steps.
Like show its work?
Yeah, exactly. Its score jumped way up.
So it's not just guessing the right answer.
Right. By forcing it to reason out loud, it got better at solving these embodied tasks.
Interesting. So it's like the act of explaining makes it better.
It seems that way, yeah.
Okay, so Gemini 2.0 has this good grasp of the physical world.
Right.
But what can it actually do with that, specifically for robotics, I mean?
Okay, so let's get concrete, right?
Yeah.
First up, object detection.
Okay.
Gemini 2.0 can do what they call open world 2D detection.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means it can spot objects in an image and put a box around them, precise location.
Okay, so it can label things.
But it's more than just labeling.
Oh.
It can do this from direct commands like find all the spoons, right?
Yeah.
But also indirect ones, like what could I use to wipe up this mess?
So it understands what things are for.
Exactly. It's not just recognizing a sponge. It knows you use it to clean.
That's a whole other level, wow.
It is. Then we've got pointing.
Pointing!
Like literally Gemini 2.0 can point to stuff based on what you tell it.
Okay, so like point to the red ball?
Yeah, but it goes further.
Like what?
It can point to an empty spot on the table or where to grab this mug.
So it understands space, not just individual objects.
Right, and they tested this rigorously on special benchmarks, and it blew other models away.
Wow.
Like really good spatial awareness.
Okay, that's impressive.
And then building on that pointing, there's trajectory prediction.
Okay, what's that now?
So once it knows where things are, it can guess how they'll move.
So if I say, I'm going to reach for that tool.
It can draw a path, like how your hand would realistically move to get it.
So it's like got physics built in, kind of.
Yeah, it's got an understanding of motion in the real world.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then this is where we get closer to actual robots. There's grasp prediction.
Grasp prediction, so like how to pick something up.
Exactly. Not just point at it, but how would a robot hand grab it?
Okay.
And it predicts this top-down, like exact coordinates and angle for the gripper.
So it's not just there's the banana, it's grab it like this.
Yes. Like, think about how you grab a banana.
Depends if I'm peeling it or just moving it.
Exactly. The model can predict those different grasps.
Huh. That's getting really smart.
It is. And for robots that use many cameras, which a lot will, there's multi-view correspondence.
Okay, that sounds complicated.
It is. But basically, imagine a robot sees you holding something,
Okay.
but it's got cameras all around. Multi-view means it can match up what each camera sees.
Even though the background is different.
Exactly. So it builds a full 3D understanding,
Yeah.
even if some views are blocked.
That makes sense. Like our brains kind of do that too, right?
Yeah, very similar idea. And lastly, there's 3D bounding box detection.
So like depth perception from a single image.
Kinda. It can figure out the 3D size and position of objects just from one picture.
Huh.
And the cool thing is it can do this based on any description, not just preset labels.
So I could say like find the thing shaped like a weird blob.
And if it's there, it'll find it, put a 3D box around it, tell you its size.
That's wild.
And the report says it's as good as or better than specialized models, but it understands way more words.
So it's flexible and accurate.
Exactly. Now here's where it gets really cool. Ready?
Yeah, hit me.
All these embodied reasoning skills, together, they're powerful.
Okay.
So powerful that Gemini 2.0 can actually control a robot.
Wait, really?
And get this, without being specifically trained on robot data.
Hold on. What? So it's like figuring it out on the fly.
We call it zero-shot control.
Zero shot. So tasks it's never seen before, robot-wise.
It's crazy, right? And it's a combo of two things.
What are those?
One, its ability to write code.
Okay.
Remember, Gemini 2.0 is good at that.
Right, like programming stuff.
And two, it's embodied reasoning, which we just talked about.
Okay, so it knows the world and can write instructions.
Exactly. They've got this Aloha 2 robot. It's got 2 arms, right?
Okay.
And Gemini 2.0 has an API, like a set of commands it can use.
So like move the arm, grab this, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Open, close grippers, even understand the robot's current state, like its pose.
So it gets a command, but it's got to figure out the robot part itself.
That's the wild part. It's like put the banana in the bowl, right?
Okay.
It uses its world knowledge to plan the steps, then writes the code using the API to tell the robot how to move.
So it's like translating our words into robot language.
In a way, yeah. And it's not a one-shot thing.
What do you mean?
It's constantly getting feedback.
Like if the banana slips.
Exactly. New images, the robot's position, and if something went wrong, it replanned.
That's a lot going on in its AI brain.
It is, but they've got simulations showing this in action.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they tested stuff like lifting a banana or placing a toy in a bowl, then closing it.
Okay, so varying difficulty.
Right, and they compared Gemini 2.0 Flash to Robotics ER, the one with better embodied reasoning.
Okay. I got you.
Robotics ER almost doubled the success rate.
Really? Just from that better understanding of the physical world.
Exactly. Shows you how crucial it is for robots to not just see, but get it.
So simulations are one thing, but what about a real robot?
They did real-world tests, too.
Oh, cool.
On a real Aloha 2, they tried banana handover, full dress, and wiping a surface.
Okay.
Handover, it did okay, but lower success than simulation.
Because real world is messy.
Exactly. Tiny errors, objects aren't perfectly uniform,
Great. Makes sense.
and dress folding, it struggled there.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is zero shot. It couldn't make grasps precise enough for that.
So for really complex stuff, pure zero shot has limits.
Right, which is why they also explored few shot control.
Few shot, so like a little bit of training.
Yeah, instead of 0 examples, they give it a few demos.
Like show the robot how to fold a dress a couple times.
Exactly, about 10 examples. Then it tries to directly copy the movements.
So learning by watching.
Right, like in-context learning, it's called.
Okay.
And they built on older methods, but the key here is that Robotics ER, it figured out the important visual cues itself.
So it didn't need a separate AI to tell it what to look for.
Exactly. It was like, oh, the key is how they're holding the fabric there.
That's impressive.
And yes, both Flash and Robotics ER, they got way better with these few demos.
Even for the hard stuff.
Especially for two-handed tasks, like that handover, folding, packing, much higher success rates.
So a little bit of example goes a long way.
Huge way, especially when the model's already got a good grasp of the world.
Right, it's not starting from zero knowledge.
Exactly. So that's Gemini 2.0, amazing foundation.
Yeah, really impressive.
But then the report goes on to introduce Gemini Robotics itself.
Okay, so what's different about this one?
Think of it like Gemini 2.0 is the brain, robotics is the body.
Oh, okay.
It's fine-tuned from Robotics ER, but its job is different.
In what way?
It directly predicts what actions the robot should take.
Oh, so before it was like writing code or mimicking, but this
This is telling the motors, move this much in this direction now.
So much more direct control.
Exactly. And their goal was general-purpose robot, super dexterous, works anywhere, any robot type.
That's ambitious.
It is. And they knew they needed speed.
Because robots are moving in real time.
Exactly. So they split the architecture.
Split it half.
The heavy lifting, the vision and language part, that's in the cloud.
Okay.
It's based on Robotics ER, but super optimized, under 160 milliseconds to respond to a query.
That's fast.
Right. And then on the robot itself, a small action decoder.
So it's like the brain's offsite, the robot's got reflexes.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And this way, total delay end to end, about 250 milliseconds.
Okay.
Meaning it can control the robot at 50 hertz.
50 times a second.
Yep. That's smooth, responsive movement.
And to train this thing, what kind of data did they use?
This is where it gets nuts.
Okay, lay on me.
Thousands of hours. Real-world robot data.
Wow.
From Aloha 2 robots, teleoperated, over 12 months.
So someone was controlling them, recording the movements.
Exactly. Doing all sorts of tasks, fine motor skills, huge variety.
Makes sense. Got to teach it lots of stuff.
But they didn't stop there.
Oh.
They added in tons of other data.
Like what?
Web text, code, images, you name it, multimodal, even that embodied reasoning stuff from before.
So it's like real-world robot actions plus a whole bunch of general knowledge.
That's what makes it so powerful.
And did they compare it to other approaches?
Oh, yeah, they had baselines.
Okay.
They re-implemented a model called Loe0. That's an open source one. Vision language action.
Okay.
And also a multitask diffusion policy. That's another fancy technique for robot learning.
So cutting-edge stuff.
Yeah, but all trained on the same data mix, to be fair.
Right, level playing field.
And Gemini Robotics, it pulled ahead in the tests.
Okay, so what could it do, like, right out of the box?
They had 20 tasks, real-world stuff.
Examples?
Folding pants, stacking cups, opening folders, even wrapping a headphone wire neatly.
So, like, tour stuff.
Yeah, but some were super dexterous, some simpler.
Okay.
And without any task-specific training, robotics succeeded on a good chunk of them.
How good is good?
Over 80% success rate on half the tasks.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Right. And the thing is, it was really good with deformable objects.
Deformable, like things that bend?
Yeah, cloth, wires, stuff that robots usually struggle with.
Right, because it's not rigid, changes shape.
Exactly. But robotics could fold, wrap, stuff other models couldn't even touch.
So it's really got a handle on those tricky manipulations.
It does. It really shows the power of the underlying model and data.
Now, what about following instructions, like detailed
They
ones?
did tests for that too.
Yeah.
25 instructions in 5 different scenes, some with new objects.
So not just pick that up, but
Place the blue clip to the right of the yellow sticky notes. That level of specific.
wow, that's very particular.
It is, and they wanted to see, can it understand the language and do it in the real world?
Okay.
And robotics, along with their UA reimplementation, they did better than the diffusion model.
So language understanding is key.
Seems like it. But robotics was even better when the instructions were super detailed or with new objects.
So like put the toothpaste in the bottom left of the caddy.
Exactly. The other model got confused by that kind of description. Robotics nailed it.
That's really impressive. So it's not just doing, it's understanding what you meant.
Right, and that's important to the real world.
Totally. So what about generalization? Like new situations, can it handle those?
That's crucial for any robot, right?
Yeah, the world's not always the same.
So they tested 3 types of generalization.
Lemon.
Visual, instruction, and action.
Okay, break those down.
Visual is, can it handle changes in like the background, lighting, how things look?
Right.
Instruction is paraphrasing, typos, even different languages, varying how specific you are.
So like put it there versus gently place it 2 inches to the left.
Exactly. And action is, can it adapt its movements if the starting setup is different?
Or if the object is slightly different.
Precisely. So they had 85 tasks, and a bunch of them were specifically for testing these types of generalization.
Okay, so it's not just the same tasks over and over.
And across all 3 categories, robotics was the best, consistently.
Really?
Yeah. And it even did stuff where other models failed completely.
Like what?
New language instructions?
Yeah.
Or if the target object looked way different.
Wow.
They think this is because of 2 things.
Okay, what are they?
The power of Gemini 2.0's vision, it inherited that.
Right, so it's good at understanding what it sees, even if it's new.
And the sheer amount of diverse data they trained it on.
So it's seen a lot of weird stuff, can handle surprises better.
Exactly. Now, the report goes further. It explores how to make robotics even better.
Oh, so it's not done yet.
Never done.
Yeah.
They looked at specialization and adaptation.
Okay, so how do you take this general robot and make it great at specific things?
One way, they tackled long horizon dexterity.
Long horizon, what's that mean?
Really complex tasks that take a while to do.
Okay.
They fine-tuned robotics on 6 specific challenges, and these were tough.
Like what?
Making an origami fox.
Wait, origami?
Yep, from paper, all the folds.
That's nuts.
Then packing a lunchbox, multiple items, doing it right.
Okay, so it's not just one action, it's a sequence.
Exactly. Then playing a spelling board game, like moving letters.
Oh, wow.
Playing a simplified card game, adding snap peas to a salad with tongs, and nuts to a salad with a spoon.
These are all like fine motor skills plus planning ahead.
Exactly. And these models, they had like 2,000 to 5,000 demonstrations each.
So they really drilled those skills in.
They did. And the success rate, 79% average.
That's super high for that level of complexity.
Right. And the lunchbox task, 100% success.
Every time.
Every time. Multi-step, long process, flawless.
That's amazing.
And in this spelling game, it could spell words from hand-drawn letters, even ones it hadn't seen before.
Wow. So it's not just memorizing, it's understanding the concept of letters.
Exactly. Other models, they struggled big time with these tasks.
Because they don't have that strong foundation.
Right. And they tried training a specialist model from scratch with no general knowledge.
Okay.
Failed completely.
So you really need that broad understanding first.
It seems that way, yeah.
Okay, so long horizon tasks, they nailed that.
What else? They also improved reasoning and generalization.
Okay, so like making it smarter, not just more skilled.
Exactly. They used a new data set, relabeled, focused on actions.
Okay.
And the goal was make the actions match up better with the embodied reasoning from before.
So like it can explain why it's doing each step.
Exactly. They also tweaked the action decoder on the robot.
So more internal logic going on?
Right. And they tested it with real-world tasks out of distribution, mixing things up.
Give me an example.
Like sort the bottom right mouse into the matching pile. Or put the Japanese fish delicacy in the lunchbox. Very specific.
Okay.
And the reasoning enhanced version, It did way better.
Especially on tasks that require some thinking, not just muscle memory.
Exactly, like needing semantic knowledge, knowing what a fish delicacy is, or spatial stuff.
Interesting.
And they can even visualize the key points of the movement, like a little animation.
Oh, cool.
And often it looked like how a human would reason out the motion.
So it's not just blindly following a path, it's making decisions.
It seems like it, which is pretty cool.
It is. What else did they do?
Fast adaptation to new tasks.
Okay, so how quickly can it learn something totally new?
They took the general robotics model, right?
Okay.
And gave it limited data, maximum 100 demonstrations for 8 subtasks.
Subtasks from those complex ones.
Exactly. And even with that little data, it got over 70% success on 7 out of 8.
Wow.
And 2 of them, 100% success.
So a few examples is all it took.
While other models, they were okay on the easy stuff. But when it got hard, robotics was king.
Again, that strong foundation making a difference.
Right, that general knowledge helps it learn fast.
Makes sense. What else do they look at?
Last one, adaptation to new embodiments.
Embodiment, so like different robot bodies.
Exactly. They took the model, trained on a Aloha 2, right?
Okay.
And they tried to make it control a Franco robot. That's a bi-arm one.
Okay.
And get this, the Apollo humanoid robot.
No way, like a walking robot.
Yeah, and they showed examples. Apollo packing a lunch bag, Franca assembling stuff.
So same AI, totally different bodies.
And after some fine-tuning with data from those new robots, robotics was as good as or better than a specialized model for that robot.
Really? So it's not just good at Aloha 2, it can learn other ones too.
Seems that way. And it even transferred its robustness and generalization.
So even with new robots, it could handle variations and changes.
Especially with the Franca, it beat the baseline in those tests.
That's potentially huge.
It is. Imagine, train one model, use it on any robot.
That would change robotics completely.
For sure.
So, big takeaways from all this.
Yeah. What stands out to you?
Embodied reasoning, it's not just a buzzword, it's like the foundation of this whole thing.
Absolutely. Got to understand the world first.
And the power of these big AI models, it's not just about language anymore.
Right. Vision, action, it's all coming together.
Zero shot and few shot learning, that's crazy exciting.
Yeah, robots that learn fast, that changes everything.
And then the specialization and adaptation is like the sky's the limit.
Right. You can fine-tune for specific tasks. Different robots, the possibilities are huge.
Totally. It's like we're at the beginning of something big.
We are. And one last thought for you, the learner. Think about where this is going.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Imagine robots this capable in our homes, workplaces, everywhere.
Changes everything.
What new things will be possible? But also, what new challenges will we face?
That's a good question to think about.
It is. And we encourage you, dig into that report, see for yourself.
GeminiRoboticsReport.pdf. Look it up. There's even more detail in there.
This is a field that's changing fast. Stay curious.
And keep those sources coming. We'll keep diving.
Until next time.
See you then.